Hi everyone, it's Jan from Jannplansthings and I am finally back with a plan with me video for you guys. I'm going to go through my December setup and I'm going to start off with something a little bit simple because it has been a while since I've shown you guys a plan with video, but I think I'm going to go back to basics and make this a little bit easier. I'm starting out by using my pencil just to do a few circular guidelines. You could probably just use also a bowl as well if you wanted to do that if you don't have protractor available. I just wanted some guidelines so that it will help me colour in a little bit later when I start with the watercolours. So I have marked a few of like the degrees, I think like 5-degree separation lines around there just to help me do this radial array. So what you can see is I'm doing small 4-pointed diamond stars, but I'm getting them to point towards the centre of the circle, so it kind of looks like a starburst. Now, if you're not confident in getting all the stars to point towards the middle, what you can do is draw the ones at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, then 9 o'clock first, just to get those guidelines, then fill them in between just to get the spray a little bit more uniform. I've changed up some of the stars, so some of them small, some of them big, just to make it look a little bit more sparkly. And now I'm going to start with my paint. I'm going to start with a grey. This is a grey that I've mixed myself using an ultramarine blue and a burnt sienna, and I'm going to use that to darken a phthalo blue blue shade, and this is all Daniel Smith watercolours. So using that, you can see me on the side mixing the colours, and I'm actually doing it on purpose where I'm not mixing the colours well. The reason for that is that I can get a variation in the paint. So sometimes I've got a little pool of the brighter blue off to the side and I might pull that into the grey. And this just gives me a little bit of variation when I'm painting these clouds like this. So because I don't want them all to be the same colour. If they're all the same colour, you kind of get just one uniform wash, but by letting it mix a little bit, you get like a more interesting paint. And if I've got the brush dipped in one blue, I might just do different sections at a time. Now the thing is, when you're painting in a journal, I'm using the LT at the moment, just make sure your brush isn't too wet, because if it is too wet, it will make the paper buckle too much. So I always try to make sure my brush is a little bit drier than what you would normally use, especially if you're using it in comparison to using it on watercolor paper. This is actually the first time I'm using a synthetic brush. Normally I'm using a Kolinsky, but this one is a Holbein 500R round Kolinsky brush, not Kolinsky, sorry, synthetic brush, and it's quite lovely. The Holbein, of course, doesn't come in a very thin variation, so I've switched to a Kolinsky now, which is a White Nights one, just to draw the little details that you see me drawing in now. These little details are just I'm using the darkened blue color, which is evaporated a little bit to make sure the color's a little bit richer. And the main point of that is to make sure there's a little bit more variation in the clouds. So next up, I'm going to use a little bit of gold paint. I'm still currently using my favorite gold paint, which is a gold from Peppercorn Arts, and I love it because of how it dries basically like gold leaf, almost like foil. So I've used a bigger brush at the beginning to re-wet the pan and kind of get it in that liquid molten state. You can kind of see how much I've used that gold, like there's a massive dent in the pan. I'm hoping Connie will make me a new one when I finish it, inevitably. But after I've kind of wetted the pan with the bigger brush, which is a little bit easier to do, I've switched over to the finer White Nights brush just to do the rest of the stars. I'm actually not too concerned about going over the lines in this. If I do go over the lines a little bit for the line work, I'm just going to go over it again with the pen. But you know, it's your bullet journal, you don't have to be too serious about everything being perfectly neat. It kind of adds character to everything. When you're using a paint like this, and maybe the Coliro paints as well, because the pigments sit on top of the surface of the notebook, because the LT is coated, it will shimmer a little bit more as if it's like a gold leaf on top of the paper compared to being absorbed into it, and you kind of see the pigments suspended on top of the paper. So it's a little bit different in how it reacts. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to letter the center. Because it has been a while, I did do some guidelines beforehand, and it's kind of like I was very pleased that it was more like riding a bike where I didn't quite forget how to use this. Yes, so I did some guidelines first just to make it easier for myself. It has been a little bit strange returning to journaling after being in lockdown for so long. It's kind of like I didn't really have the energy to film and do stuff like this this year. I was more focused on helping run the business and everything, and so that was my major focus this year, and I kind of let my creative stuff fall to the wayside, which I regret a little bit. But my next steps here, you might have just seen me do it, was I'm drawing a kind of like a radial, some radial lines around the center, kind of like a starburst. I've realized that it might have been a little bit difficult for you guys to see in this one, so in the next spread I'll draw the lines first. At the beginning I was thinking to myself maybe I'll draw a ruler to everything, but I realized it's not really my style. It's better just to freehand everything because it's just a little bit more loose. And just like doing the stars beforehand, if it's easier for you, I'd recommend you doing the major numbers on the clock first, and that just gives you a kind of general direction to point the lines in. Make sure all the lines are different length. It just makes it a little bit more interesting. And that locks off the first page, and I'm going to move on to doing a monthly spread now. So something that I'm doing a little bit different to my other setups is this time around I won't be doing a mood tracker for this, mainly because I feel like this year I've just plateaued in my mood. It was kind of just like survive. Survive this pandemic and it'll be okay. My focus at the moment is a little bit more on productivity, but I wanted to make my productive pages a little bit more pretty for December because, I might as well celebrate surviving December. So you can see now I'm just doing the radial lines and I'm pretty loose with it. I don't really care if some of them are a little bit out or some of them are a little bit like derpy, because in the end, as long as the majority of them are facing the right way, it kind of looks okay. So at the end of some of these, I have counted 31 dots, and that's what I'm using as my radial calendar, just to do a couple of bookings. So Australia is finally opening up again, so that means that I'll actually be able to go places like buy things for Christmas, which would be absolutely lovely. So I'm very happy to be drawing my monthly spread this month and, making a few plans, seeing a few people, which is absolutely, very different to what has been happening. But I'm just repeating the steps that I did in the first spread. I've kind of solidified the style for this starburst, and I'm pretty happy with how versatile it is. And by keeping this motif throughout, it means that I don't have to think too much about the spreads that I'm doing, but it also kind of ties it all in together. So as long as I keep the things with the stars and the lines and the blue color, and the blue is easy to mix as well. It's like a very simple color to mix, so I can keep it consistent across the entire month. That being said, I think it is important to do whatever you can to try and get back into the groove of things after such a strange year. So I am taking it a bit easy to, get back into these. I am taking a large amount of time off work soon just to relax, because I did a lot of overtime while getting everything working again and working from home. You tend to live at work instead of work from home when it's like this. So during that time, I hope to just get back into painting a bit more and doing a few more spreads for you guys. But now for the weekly. I had a lot of fun with this one actually, because I just went, I don't need rulers, whatever. I kind of just free-handed everything. And some of it looked really weird at the beginning, but I was committed to making it as consistent as possible. So they're like little starbursts. This type of illustration reminds me a lot of like comic book speech bubbles, and I thought that was kind of cool. So, like when they exclaim something, or like kapow or something like that, they have these like radial lines around the text boxes. So that's kind of like what I was channeling, but adding that little bit of watercolor really made it a little bit more fun. And this ended up being one of my favorite spreads that I've done, because it's just really simple. I think it took maybe 15 minutes for me to finish the spread, but it looks really cool with all the little stars and the blue. The color is nice, it was easy to do, and it's very effective. By adding a few splotches of watercolor on the page, it just made it a little bit more interesting. And as the paint dried, the variation in the color also made it look not look so uniform. and I like that. It adds a little bit of randomness to the day, which I prefer when I'm working. It's because I'm not too restricted within the lines. What is great though, regardless of how long I take a break from my bullet journal, I am still addicted to gold paint. I was flicking through it the other day and I was so happy to see all the sparklies in it. But I have been using a Hobonichi instead because it already has the layout of pages, and when I was doing work I just kind of drawing everywhere. But now I kind of just want to return. I realized like how much happiness I got from just doing spreads like this every week. So now this is something that I did a little bit when I had a bit of downtime this year. I designed some Christmas stickers for Bunbougu in Australia. I think the stickers might still be available, and they're printed on washi paper. And of course, there's gold foiling on it because I am addicted to gold and I wanted to share the gold with you guys. It also has handwritten numbers for the month if you're interested in using them. Yes, from memory they are still available while I'm recording this, but I'm just using those to add just a little bit of a Christmas decoration to my month. And because of the washi paper that it's printed on, it kind of just blends into the paper really well. But obviously I've got Humphrey and Hermione on the sticker page. I kind of wish I did an entire cat themed sticker thing, but you know, maybe that's for the future. So I've got Hermione chilling out on top of Thursday and next to Friday for the first week of December. And that is my weekly spread. Now look how sparkly it is. You can't really see how sparkly it is from the top, but I thought I'd do some side pictures for you guys to see. And that's it for this week, and I love you all. Bye!